to change all the parking meters downtown with the smart meters and actually eliminate any free time and everything like that. It's a way to squeeze every penny we can out of us.
That's
and not create businesses downtown, because I don't want to have to go downtown and pay all that extra money at a parking meter, and they want to increase the parking meters.
Yeah.
So it's revenue.
Exactly.
When I hear revenue, I get scared.
Yeah. And I do think there's opportunities for revenue that are not taxpayer generated. I think ultimately you can provide public-private partnerships. I'm quite certain that if the city allowed it, State Farm, who's the sponsor of the Home Run Derby, would be more than happy to cover some of the costs for an even larger presence in the city of Phoenix. But it's never on the table. Obviously, just say that off the cuff, but certainly those are the types of things that if we can find innovative ways to raise revenue, that's something that we can look at. But ultimately, again, if you look at the budget and you look at how many people we have in the city versus what we had 5 years ago, we have enough money. It's just a question of allocation. The other thing that I did skip on that chart, if you want to look at this down at the bottom, you see that 70% police and fire. Economic development, you have to look all the way over to here to find anything with economic development. That's where jobs are created. That's where the people are hitting the pavement to create those reports that attract those jobs. And so it's 2/3 of the way over to the right in the grand scope of things. If we don't concentrate on creating jobs, we're constantly going to be searching for revenue streams because we aren't going to have that broad-based economy that we need.
JT, if it's possible, this is a question I'd like for all three of them to answer. I have many, many friends that ride the light rail, and they see almost no one paying. We spent over $1 billion on that, and we're still expanding it. The ridership hasn't changed. It's just shifted from buses to light rail. It didn't give us any advantages. And I don't know, if nobody's paying, what do you do? We're investing over $1 billion, and it's gone into a rat hole. All three.
I'll go first. My husband loves to look right, one or the other. He does that on his afternoons when he's looking for something to do with the grandkid. And that's one of his biggest complaints. He doesn't see people complain. And I have continually challenged that. However, having said that, revenue is up, ridership is way up, and the buses are full. In fact, we're adding a new one up here at Happy Valley because it's standing room only.
Well, the gas prices are so high now that it's a blip.
And so it was never designed nor ever expected to pay for itself. That's public transportation. It never has anywhere, and it won't. I don't remember the exact percentage they expected to pay, but it's always subsidized in one manner or another. But it does have passengers. We are coming up with new smart cards. Sometimes the rates just astound you. They have special meter readers. People who designed the light rail years ago had special cards. However, they never tested them in the heat. Oh. And they've never been able to come up with a machine that will work in our heat. So that's one of the problems. And of course, they always say they're working on it, but it's a county transportation problem now.
Is it true that city employees ride for free?
I don't know if they get
Yes,
yeah.
Why is that?
To encourage them. Part of it is because to not drive because of federal regulations. We are mandatory, as many of your big employers are, to reduce emissions and provide ways for our employees not to drive.
Another great reason not to take federal mandates.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. The light rail just came online just before I retired. But a lot of the detectives now take it downtown to court because the traffic is so terrible down there and it's so crowded and there's no parking or anything like that. So that's why they hop on it because it can court. there's a traffic condition.
And it meets the city's federal standards for reducing emissions.
And it meets
It's
our
a- it's a-
regulation.
Yeah, it's a federal and county standard we have to meet. And
Last
one
time
of
I
the ways
rode
we
it,
have to meet it. County also does the same
But
thing.
if everybody
The state.
rode for free, then there'd even be more incentive.
I understand what you're saying.
Gary, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I just, last time we had spoken to you, we had talked about expanding the light rail up to Metro Center. Do you still support that?
I would like to see it to is west. I think it's important it gets to the northwest valley. I think it's essential that we connect the three campuses in future time. And that probably will not happen for decades because of the cost of the bridge to get over I-17. And besides now, the political pressure is for it to go south and west out I-10.
I don't support the expansion of the light rail at all. It's just not financially sound, it's not sustainable. Obviously, it was never designed to pay for itself, as you just said. It's just not possible. We already have a transit system. There's a lot of things that you can do in order to fix a current transit system, but I would not add this enormous expense.
And I think that light rail is just poorly designed. I think an on-street system is designed for failure from the get-go. It takes 70 minutes to go 20 miles. You're going to expand it. It's never a realistic option for people to use in lieu of a vehicle, which is the point of that kind of mass transit system. Ultimately, the expansion, I'm not necessarily against it because it is spurs development. And if you look at freeway systems, they also are cost ineffective. But ultimately, if we don't have ways to force people to pay for the rides, and if we don't have an effective system, it will never be successful, will never be viable, and we shouldn't spend another penny on it until we have something that will work.
We created a new department of people to make sure that
Just reallocate them from the water
There's
department.
another 1,000 jobs.
I said that wrong, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that out loud.
They have already purchased the land, torn down the houses on 19th Avenue, clear up to Dunlap. So what's the plan for that? Is that just gonna be?
It's cheaper. It's right now. It's, they have the money, I believe, it's the system, but it's been delayed. And they continue to buy the right of way. It's not my district, and I haven't been really involved in transit, so I'm not clear on all the details, but it's still a go.
Where's the money coming from? Is that federal money or is that,
Federal transit money.
it's all federal money?
No.
Well, no, there's a
Partial.
sales tax.
Gotta have
That,
spring
Yeah.
4/10%, I believe, sales tax that goes to that, as well as federal money.
There's also an infrastructure that the government leaves, which we have to pay for. For instance, in Wisconsin, the reason the governor there scrapped their program was the continuing cost of maintaining the light rail system.
And if you take a look at that 34% that we talked about, that's part of it. And what happens if those federal dollars end and we're stuck with that entire bill for operating that system from now and for the next 50 years? Taxes will further continue to increase. Yes, ma'am. I know you've had a burning question.
Yeah, I do. I've been at the past 2 city council meetings, and the latest figure that we could pull out of the budget was that the light rail was negative $100 million for this year. So the thought to me of expanding it, which might pour more money into a losing proposition, is not sitting well.
And like I said, in its current incantation, it doesn't sit well with me either. And somebody will have to show me that they have a system that is functional and viable now and in the future, low cost, why we still have electric rails tied to it and not underground, why we have an on-street system that has already caused, I think, 12 accidents at last count, right? And the resulting lawsuits, even if it's not our fault, which thankfully none of them have been, but can you imagine a street car plowing into a car full of kids? And can you imagine it being that driver's fault? And can you imagine the resulting multiple millions of dollars of lawsuits that would result in a poorly designed system?